Good morning, boys and Pallavi. So we are back again with the chapter biomolecules. In our previous sessions, we have covered micromolecules, means small molecules, small sized chemical molecules. And since they are all very important for our biological activities, we call them as micromolecules. As part of that, we studied amino acids and fatty acids. Now we are going with the big sized molecules, macro. Macro means big sized. Okay, bio because they help us in biological activities by staying in that. They play a crucial role in our physiology and biochemistry. So as part of that, under this bio macro molecules, we are going to study about proteins, then polysaccharides. Poly means many, saccharide means sugar, polysaccharides, and nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. Right? Already, I think we have sufficiently covered this nucleic acid portion, DNA and RNA. Right? So we will be focusing on proteins and polysaccharides. And why do you call them bio macro molecules? We have decided in the beginning of the chapter that any molecule whose molecular weight is more than 1000 Daltons is considered to be macromolecule, and below 1000 Dalton is considered as micromolecules. All these three, proteins, polysaccharides, DNA, RNA, they are all having their molecular weight more than 1000 Daltons. Hence we are studying them under bio macro molecules, right? And you can see their molecular weight is 10,000 Daltons and more, right? So you can see the structure of the protein. Let me expand. Yes, look at that. Polysaccharide, and of course the one that is our favorite, DNA, as a double helix model of DNA. And I said we must be thankful to two professors, Professor Watson and Crick, isn't it? So here the fraction includes macromolecules from cytoplasm and organelles. Oh, where do you see them? Like already we know that when we were studying about plasma membrane or cell membrane, when we take the transfer section, we understood that lipids, that is fats, they are made up of two layers. So we said lipid bilayer. Remember, recollect from your memory? Lipid bilayer. As you are seeing that yellow pillar like structures, they are all lipids. And in between those lipid structures, you have proteins, the brown ones. And you can identify there are two types of proteins. One are situated externally, extrinsic proteins. Some are situated in between, inside, so intrinsic proteins. And some of the proteins help in transportation. They form channels, protein channels, and they are called transport proteins. And in between, you can also see that slightly sky blue colored ones, carbohydrate chains. So basically, plasma membrane or cell membrane is having all the three particles. So lipid is not strictly a macromolecule, as its molecular weight does not exceed 800 Daltons. That's how we have studied lipids or fats under micromolecules previously. But it comes under acid insoluble fraction because many lipids are arranged into structures like cell membrane. When a tissue is grinded, cell membranes are broken and form water insoluble. See, water insoluble means they don't dissolve in water, and they cannot be filtered along acid soluble fraction. That is the reason why we are studying this fats again under this. As far as their molecular weight is concerned, no doubt they come under micromolecules. But as far as their solubility is concerned, they are different. So, what does basically a cell contain? Basically, the average composition of the cell is, look at the water content, 70 to 90% water content, and proteins 10 to 15%, carbohydrates only 3%, DNA, RNA 5 to 7%, and ions 1%. Let me allow somebody is waiting there. Who is this 5318? Let me see this. Yeah, we'll lock the room so that they'll come. Yes. So, any cell, living cell, the composition of the cell is water, protein, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, and ions. And if you observe, water has got highest composition, followed by proteins. And what are proteins? Anybody can tell me what are proteins? Are they monomers or polymers? Naveen Gowda? Yes, Pallavi? Proteins are polymers. Poly means many, mer, unit. It is a product of addition of many small units. Then we say polymer. And each small unit is called monomer. Here, monomer is amino acid. Many amino acids join together to form a protein. That's why we say amino acid is monomer, protein is a polymer. And in that, heteropolymer means different types of amino acids will be present. Already we have studied in our previous session the generalized structure of amino acid and variety of functional groups R group that are attached to it. So, they are polypeptides, linear chains as you are seeing. You can see the amino acids in a single chain, and the bond between the two amino acids is called a peptide bond. So, one side you have got amino group, NH2 group, other side you got carboxylic acid, COOH group. So, peptide bond is formed when COOH group of one amino acid reacts with amino group, okay, of the next amino acid by releasing a molecule of water. One molecule of water is lost whenever there is a combination. Look at that. Now focus on the structure first amino acid. So you got a carbon-carbon bond, and if you recollect from your memory, I said carbon has got 4 lone electrons, alone electrons. We call it in chemistry valency electrons. And each lone electron would like to combine or share its influence with another electron, thus forming bond. So you got carbon can form easily 4 bonds because its valency is 4. 4 electrons are lone. So you can see there the carbon has got one side NH2 group, amino group, another side COOH group, down hydrogen, and top R group. I said R group is the functional group, variable group. And when one amino acid joins with another amino acid, what's happening? Look at that CO, where it is written peptide bond, you focus there. From NH2, one hydrogen is out. From COOH, one OH is out. So H plus OH, H2O, one molecule of water is lost, as you are seeing here. Look at that. Thus, the peptide bond is formed. So peptide bond is formed basically by the loss of water molecule. And what for these proteins? What is the significance of proteins? All of us know that their very, very important. They play a vital role in our growth and development. And whenever we are injured, the tissue gets back after some days. Like many times you must have fallen down when you are cycling, when you are riding a bike, when you are playing football, hockey, and you are happy that whatever muscle you lost, skin you lost, must have got back. So that repairing methodology is because of the proteins. And recollect from your memory, when you were in 10th class, what was your height? And now when you reach 11th class, what's your height? Is there any difference? I am sure all of you must have grown physically. And second, transport nutrients across cell membranes. Like, very important one, glucose transport. You see, glucose is formed after the digestion of food. Whatever we eat in the form of breakfast, lunch, dinner, that gets broken. And the product that is formed is glucose. And the glucose which is formed in the small intestine must be transported to each and every part of our body as well as plant body. And who is helping it? GLUT4, a protein called GLUT4 enables glucose transport into cell. Acts as intercellular ground substance. Like there is a protein called collagen, okay, and it bridges to tissues. So it forms the ground substance. Acts as antibodies to fight against infectious organisms. When we say WBC, white blood cells, and these are nothing but proteinaceous substances. So proteins play a crucial role in fighting against infection, against dangerous bacteria, disease causing viruses, fungus. Okay, so that is the importance of proteins. And then next, they act as receptors of smell, receptors of taste, receptors of hormones. So they play again a vital role acting as receptors. And most important, some are hormones, and hormones are responsible for all the biological activities that are taking place, including your growth. There is a hormone called GH, remember? Growth hormone. If that growth hormone is there, then only you will be growing. Otherwise, you will have stunted growth, right? And insulin, of course, the importance of insulin, particularly diabetic patients, it's lack of insulin that they become diabetic, right? Insufficient secretion from the pancreas. And then they form enzymes, right? Trypsin. And we will be studying again in detail about enzymes in my next class. And then pigments, coloring substances like hemoglobin. Where is it present? Hemoglobin. Where is hemoglobin present? Which part of the blood? RBC. Okay? Hemoglobin is present in the RBC of the blood. What is the other name for RBC? RBC means red blood cells. Is there any other name for that? That's what. RBC is that. Red blood cells or red blood corpuscles. What is the other name? Erythrocytes. Okay? I'm sure when you have gone to hospital for a blood test, and the pathologist will give you blood report. In that, you don't find RBC, WBC. Instead, he will give you erythrocytes, leukocytes, like that. Isn't it? So, you know that erythrocytes are the RBC. And inside that erythrocytes, hemoglobin will be there. And inside hemoglobin, all of you know Raghavendra, iron is the main thing. So, if Raghavendra has got a very good amount of hemoglobin, that means he is Iron Man. Raghavendra is an Iron Man, right? And if it is less, if hemoglobin content is less, then iron content becomes less, then Raghavendra becomes Spider-Man. There will be weakness and you will be always in the bed. So we call it as anemia. Kya miya? Anemia, right? So you must take care of your hemoglobin levels. And what are the most abundant proteins that are present in our body in the animal world? One is collagen. We said already, collagen is a protein that adheres, joins one tissue with another, forms ground substance. And this is very, very important for us, collagen. And the second one, I think you are familiar with this in your 10th class, Ribisco. This plays again very crucial role in respiration, right? Ribulose, biphosphate, carboxylase, oxygenase. This much big name, so you must remember it as Ribisco. These are present in plenty in our body and they play very good role. And when we talk of the structure of the protein, you got 4 types: primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure. So when you go for the primary structure, look at that. There is only one chain. Look at that. There is a single chain of amino acids. You can see here. And just now we said one amino acid joins with another amino acid by forming peptide bond. So you got a chain of amino acids. So it describes sequence of amino acids. So you got amino acid on the left end and right end you got the last amino acid or terminal amino acid. Okay. So you can see here the terminal amino acid, N terminal and C terminal. Okay. But basically it is a single chain of amino acids. One side it is amino group, another side COO group. And just some time back we said by losing one molecule of water, amino acid gets attached to the next amino acid. Then we come to secondary structure. Okay. In secondary structure, you can see many chains. One or more polypeptide chains are folded. Here it is folded. What form? Helix form. It has only right-handed helices. Example, keratin, the protein that is present in our hair, in our skin, keratin, and fibrin, silk fiber. So basically it is amino acids, and amino acid to amino acid attachment is through peptide bond. One end it is N terminal of amino group, another side it is the C terminal of COOH, but only difference between the primary and secondary is shape. There it is straight chain, single chain. Here it is helix shape. Look at that. Okay. Many chains are repeatedly formed in the form of helix, that is secondary. Now we are seeing the particular one. We said fibroin, that silk protein. Now see the structure of that. When you are wearing silk shirt, okay, silk dresses, the protein that is present is this and the chemical structure is this. So antiparallel B sheet rich in alanine and glycine, and small side chains allow close packing. So you got amino acids alanine and glycine in that protein, and the protein that is present in our hair, keratin. Then only you have black hair. Look at the strong links, disulfide bonds, and the weak links, the hydrogen bonds as usual. And see the structure, twisted chain of amino acids. And now comes the third one, that is tertiary structure. Now more complicated. Here the helical polypeptide chain is further folded. So, a lot of foldings like a hollow woolen ball. Look at that structures, myoglobin, and it's like a 3D view. And it is necessary for many biological. All enzymes are formed with the tertiary structure. Right? You can see the alpha and beta strands in the tertiary structure. And comes next, fourth type, that is quaternary structure. Still more complicated, it's almost like a ragi mudde. You see Naveen? Heme group means blood group. So you got alpha chains and beta chains of amino acids, and many chains are together present. So more than one polypeptide chains form tertiary structure, and each chain functions as subunits of protein. Example, the one that I was talking, Raghavendra, hemoglobin. It has 4 subunits, 2 alpha subunits and 2 beta subunits. Look at that. This is how Raghavendra's RBC will be having, okay, hemoglobin. Next. So, all the 4 types, let me down. Yeah, you can see the primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure. All 4 types of structures you can see. The only thing is, from primary, as you move to quaternary, the complications, the polypeptidal chains will be more, and they are arranged in a particular shape. Right? I hope you understood. Next we move on to polysaccharides. Poly means many, saccharide means sugar. So these are polymers of sugars. Mono, single. So here the very common ones are starch, which is food of the plant. It's a polymer of glucose, as all of you know. Cellulose, again, it's a polymer, homopolymer, means similar units are there. Glycogen, homopolymer of glucose, and insulin, homopolymer of fructose. So you can see all these are basically sugars. Poly means many, saccharides means sugars. So polysaccharides, presence of many sugar molecules. So these are complex polysaccharides formed of amino sugars like glucosamine, N-acetyl galactosamine, and there is a substance you must have heard, chitin, known for toughness, isn't it? It is a homopolymer of N-acetyl glucosamine. It is seen in exoskeleton of arthropods and fungal cell wall. Remember that chitin has become very famous when Hiroshima and Nagasaki towns of Japan were bombed in World War II by US. You know, everything perished because of the radiation of the nuclear bomb. But then what survived was, scientists were puzzled, cockroaches were surviving even after that nuclear radiation, and they analyzed what made them to survive even the nuclear holocaust, and it proved to be chitin. So that much is the strength of the chitin. So Naveen got idea, can we make this chitin and put on for Naveen, and he goes for the war. Can he be protected? So a lot of research is going on this. We need to learn a lot of lessons from different animals. We should not feel that we are only great, right? Next, let me expand this glucose bond in polysaccharides. Yes, basically you got monosaccharides, C6H12O6, isn't it? glucose plus glucose. Now, bond, look at the bond between the two saccharides. The linkage is glycosidic linkage. What is that bond we named between two amino acids? Peptide bond. Remember, one amino acid is attached to another amino acid through peptide bond, we said. There also water molecule is lost. Here also you are seeing one water molecule is out, that red color one. And the bond that is called is glycosidic linkage. So, how polysaccharides are formed? It is the bond formed when individual monosaccharides are linked between two carbon atoms by dehydration. Dehydration means water molecule is lost. Now, the diagrammatic representation, a portion of glycogen. So, you just see this, nobody will ask you to draw the diagram. Don't worry about that. Okay? And then we go to the polysaccharides. Of course, already we discussed. Starch. Yes. Starch is the food of the plant, we said. Right? And it forms helical secondary structure. Just now we said primary and secondary structures. It can hold I2 molecules in the helical portion, giving blue color. I am sure you must have done this starch test when you performed that iodine test. You take the starch and put iodine. Naveen, it becomes Hoslow's color, blue color. Why is it so? Any idea? Raghavendra? Any idea, Raghavendra?
The starch is present, so it becomes
Okay, blue color, Hoslow's color. But why? What makes that to show blue color? Why not red color, Vijayana rose color? Why not Chalikya's color? Why only blue color? Yes, Pallavi? Is she available? Yes, Raghavendra. Starch plus iodine. You are adding iodine, no? What is the color of the iodine? Brown. Brown, no? You have seen in our lab. Iodine liquid in chemistry lab, biology lab you have seen. So, starch is white color. You have seen your Dhobi using it for your clothes. Isn't it? Starch. So, starch plus iodine. Starch is polysaccharide, many sugar units, glucose plus glucose plus glucose plus glucose, starch. Isn't it? And when you put iodine, brown color one, into white colored starch, it becomes Hoslow's color, blue color. Why? Starch plus iodine is equal to starch iodide. So it is starch iodide that gives blue color. Okay, understood? And yes, someone Harshit is asking, what is fructose? Fructose is the sugars that are present in fruits. The sugar that is present in fruits is fructose, a form of glucose. So cellulose has no complex helices and therefore cannot hold iodine. Now I am sure in 10th class biopracticals you must have done this potato experiment. Take potato, cut it and drop 2-3 drops of iodine. You can see the formation of blue black. And just now I said that blue black is because of formation of starch iodide. Is it clear? Starch iodide. So overall, if you see, polysaccharides are very, very important for all of us. And in that, sugars are very, very important for us. Without sugars, what happens, Naveen? We will not get energy. Right? Whatever we eat, I said breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, finally it gets broken into glucose. and glucose gets oxidized to give us 36 ATP molecules. ATP, I said, energy currency. So one glucose molecule getting oxidized will form 36 ATPs. Okay, and each ATP molecule will give us some energy, somewhere 4 calories. So with that energy that we obtain by breaking the glucose, oxidation of glucose, whatever we are doing homework, studying, walking, running, eating, of course, also requires energy. So hence, thanks to saccharides, sugar molecules, polysaccharides. Right? We will see tomorrow the nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. Already I have covered, I have told you, but still we will just run through this tomorrow. Right? Take care. Any doubts, please post it in the group, WhatsApp group. Keep on studying.